The moment that door slammed open, I knew something was wrong. Hard wrong. I was mid-sentence, walking everyone through the Q3 safety report, slides up, coffee in hand, when Paula stormed into the boardroom like a damn hurricane. Her heels hit the floor like gunshots, face red, eyes locked on me like I'd personally lit her house on fire. She didn't even hesitate. "Everyone stop. We need to talk about this." She slapped a stack of printed emails and photos down on the table, hard enough to rattle the coffee cups. I looked at them, confused for a second, until I saw my name, my work email, stamped right there next to schematics from the terrorized tower project. "The structural plans for our $60 million build were leaked to Archline Design Group," she said, voice shaking but loud. "And guess who sent them?" The whole room froze. Eyes started shifting toward me. I just stood there, heart suddenly pounding, mouth dry. I blinked, trying to make sense of it. Paula pointed a finger straight at my chest. "You've been feeding our competitors' proprietary blueprints using your login credentials. You just destroyed your career." "Wait, what?" I finally managed. I didn't send anything. Are you serious?" She ignored me and kept going, held up an email chain with highlighted headers, timestamps, and attachments, all traced back to me. Her voice cut through the silence like a knife. "You are officially suspended pending legal review. Security will escort you out. You will not touch another piece of terrorized documentation. Not now, not ever." That's when I heard the chair legs scrape. My own team, people I'd worked with for 8 years, people I'd trained, started pulling back, standing up, looking at me like I was radioactive. My stomach dropped. It felt like the floor had caved in. One guy, Brendan from Structural, wouldn't even meet my eyes. He just turned away and crossed his arms. Before I could even respond, 2 security guys showed up. One of them tapped me on the elbow. "Sir, we need you to come with us." "Can someone at least listen to me?" I asked, looking around the room. "This doesn't make any sense. I never sent—" "Let's go," the guard cut in. No one said a word. Not Paula, not my team, not one damn person. As they walked me out, Paula followed close behind, loud enough for everyone to hear. "He'll never work in engineering again. He just nuked his entire career." Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. The elevator doors closed. That was it. 8 years gone in under 8 minutes. The elevator ride down felt like it lasted a year, but when those doors finally opened, everything clicked. 6 months earlier, I'd walked into Paula's office with one of the field test reports in my hand. Reinforced concrete mix sample 3F. On paper, it looked fine. Passed the slump test, decent cure time, no red flags on the chemical balance. But out in the real world, it was a different story. "We've been using a watered-down formula," I told her. "It's weaker under shear load. Long-term exposure to cold cycles, freeze-thaw patterns, wind stress. This stuff's going to fracture in key support joints." She barely looked up from her screen. "It passed inspection. End of story." "No, it passed basic inspection. But that's not the standard we were aiming for on this build. Terrorize is 35 stories. If those columns start to crack 5 years in, we're screwed." She gave me that fake, tight smile she always used when she thought someone was wasting her time. "You engineers get too precious with theory. This formula saved us almost $2 million. That's real money. Real numbers. And when joints start failing, lawsuits are real too," I shot back. Her tone went flat. "Let it go. Stick to your safety updates. That's your lane." That was the last time I spoke in a design meeting. Within a week, my access to the core architecture files disappeared. My calendar suddenly filled with useless status check-ins and safety audit prep. I got pulled from pre-pour inspections and reassigned to paperwork no one ever read. Everyone played dumb, like it was normal. But I knew what it was. They wanted me quiet, so I worked quiet. I started pulling samples from every mix we used, comparing ratios against the specs I helped write. On weekends, I ran test pours in my garage, tweaked the binder ratios, tried different additives. I was hunting for something cheaper than our old mix, but stronger, something I could prove worked without touching company resources. By the end of May, I had a formula. It used modified fly ash and a microsilica variant, same cost bracket, half the shrinkage, higher bond strength. It held through impact and stress without cracking. I logged every test result on my backup drive, not the company laptop. I wasn't stupid. Then, the week before Paula blew up my life, I was doing a site visit at a subcontractor yard out in Joliet. Took me most of the day. When I got back and logged into my workstation, something was off. My keyboard felt moved, my chair was lowered. Little stuff, sure, but I noticed. I checked the recent activity logs. Someone had logged into my system 3 hours earlier using admin override. Downloaded 5 documents, all related to terrorized structural designs. I checked the IP address. It matched our internal server, so the access came from inside the office. I went straight to IT. They brushed me off. Said they'd look into it and report any irregularities. That was code for, we're not touching this. The next morning, I went back to check the logs. Gone. Wiped. Like they never existed. And the thing is, I almost let it go. I didn't want to start throwing accusations without proof, but my gut was screaming. That night, I opened my backup files and triple-checked every prototype, every formula variation I'd built. They were still intact, but suddenly I had a sick feeling. If someone was setting me up, they didn't need to tamper with my formulas. They just needed my login and a story that made sense. And Paula? She always knew how to write a damn convincing story. I didn't even make it back to my apartment before the fallout started. By the time I hit the parking lot, I'd been locked out of my work email. Half my contacts disappeared from LinkedIn overnight. No one returned my messages, not even people I used to grab beers with after inspections. Within a week, I knew I'd been blacklisted. Every job application got ignored. No callbacks, no interviews. One guy I knew from a firm in Pittsburgh finally picked up and gave it to me straight. Off the record, man. There's word going around you've got vendetta issues, mental health red flags, dangerous liability. From who? I asked, even though I already knew. He sighed. You know how this works. It doesn't matter if it's true. Nobody wants heat. I hung up. Didn't say goodbye. My lease was up in 2 months, but my savings didn't last that long. Between rent, student loans, and bills, I was underwater in 6 weeks, sold my TV, canceled my gym membership, started skipping meals to stretch out groceries. When I couldn't dodge it anymore, I packed everything I owned into the back of my truck and drove back to Dayton. My old room was exactly like I left it at 19. Posters peeling off the walls, ancient twin bed with the same squeaky springs. Mom tried to make it feel normal, kept saying, "It's temporary." Dad just gave me a nod and helped carry the boxes in. I could feel it in the air, though, the awkward quiet at dinner, the polite small talk about the weather. They were trying, but I was 35, jobless, broke, and sleeping 10 feet from the washer and dryer. One night, after they went to bed, I sat on the floor with my old backup drive and plugged it into my laptop. The files loaded one by one. Formulas, time-lapse videos, test logs, stress graphs, all of it still there. Everything I'd built, everyone else had ignored. I scrolled through the folder titled Altmix Beta V 3.1, the version I'd been testing before I got canned. It was the best one. Bond strength was higher than anything the firm had approved. Less cracking, more flexibility in freeze-thaw zones. I knew it worked. I just needed a place to prove it. That's when I remembered the barn. My dad's old pole barn sat on a slab that had been cracking for years. Shifting soil, poor drainage. He'd patched it with hardware store junk a dozen times. I figured if I could fix that foundation, I could prove this mix wasn't just theory. The next morning over coffee, I asked him straight up, "Mind if I test something on the barn slab? Just one section." He raised an eyebrow. "You gonna blow it up or fix it?" "Fix it?" He took a sip of his coffee and nodded. "Fine, but if it cracks worse, you're repouring the whole damn thing." Deal. I hauled out my buckets, my additives, the old cement mixer he'd buried in the shed, measured everything out by hand, ran the mix exactly like I wrote it, poured the patch just before sunset, 4 feet wide, 6 feet long, about 8 inches deep, troweled it flat, covered it up, and left it to cure. I didn't tell my parents what it was made of. I didn't need the questions yet. I just wanted to see if the damn thing held. That night, I sat in the kitchen staring at the drying slab through the window, my laptop open next to me, fan humming. If this worked, I wasn't done. Not yet. I checked the slab the next morning. No cracks, no surface bubbles. The texture was clean even. I tapped it with the handle of a shovel. Sharp ring, not a dull thud like the patched spots around it. That sound told me more than any number could. I started documenting everything. Set up a GoPro in the barn window. Took daily time-lapse footage of the curing process. Ran moisture tests. Scraped off samples and compared shrinkage to the company's mix I still had saved in a plastic tub from an old test batch. Mine cured faster, didn't flake, and held tighter around rebar samples. On paper, it was solid. In practice, it was even better. Problem was, none of that paid rent. So I picked up 2 part-time gigs. Mornings, I stocked shelves at a hardware store off Main Street. Nights, I tutored math at the local high school. It didn't bring in much, but it kept me moving, and it bought me just enough time to keep watching that slab. 2 weeks in, a thunderstorm rolled through. 4 inches of rain in one night. Wind gusts cracked tree limbs. Barn flooded near the edges. My patch? Still perfect. By week 3, the sun baked it for 5 straight days. That's when the corporate mix usually shrank and showed tiny fractures. I watched, waited. Nothing. No spiderweb cracks, no discoloration. That Sunday, my dad walked out there with me, hands on his hips, squinting down at the concrete. "You sure this is your formula?" he asked. "Every ounce of it." He knelt, ran his hand along the edge. "This is the cleanest pour I've seen in 20 years. You could build a damn house on it." I didn't say anything, just nodded. Hearing that from him meant more than I wanted to admit. Later that night, I was sitting at the kitchen table with my laptop, updating my stress test charts, when a message popped up from Chris. Chris M., 8:41 p.m. Government review of tower scheduled Friday. Paula says it'll be routine. She's confident. My chest tightened. Chris still worked under Paula. He kept his head down, played it safe, but we'd been close once. Enough that he risked messaging me at all. Me. "They sampling from the site or just lab mix?" Chris. "Only lab samples." You know the drill. No site verification unless red flags pop up. That was it. No follow-up. He didn't say anything else, and I didn't press. But I sat there, staring at the screen, thinking about that project. Thinking about the kind of corners Paula liked to cut and how far she'd go to bury anything inconvenient. If she was confident, that meant one thing. She'd submitted the bad mix again. She thought it was behind her. She thought no one would check. I looked out at the barn. She was wrong. I sat back in my chair and stared at the message from Chris. "She's confident." That stuck with me all night. Confident meant they were using lab samples, which meant I still had a shot. There was a loophole I remembered from years back. Federal inspectors didn't pull random field samples unless something flagged first. They relied on whatever the company gave them, meaning if you gave them something that looked perfect, they'd pass it without digging deeper. I spent the next day buried in building codes, section by section, looking for one detail that might help. Halfway through the afternoon, I found it. Clause 9.4.6, chemical inconsistencies outside tolerance range must trigger additional verification. That was it. That was my crack in the system. I opened a new document and started writing. I didn't sleep that night. I pulled everything I had. My formula, stress curves, time-lapse videos, chemical analysis. I wrote it like a forensic report. Professional, clean, but clear. I made it easy to understand even if someone hadn't been in the field for a decade. Then I added the one thing Paula never saw coming. My alternate mix had a color marker, an additive I developed just for testing. Invisible under normal light. Showed faint violet under UV. It didn't affect strength, didn't impact chemical balance, but it made one thing obvious. If you saw the color under lab conditions, you knew it came from me. The twist? That marker wasn't in the bad mix. I exported the report to PDF, created a burner email, and sent it to the regional compliance office with one line in the body. The submitted mix does not match approved specs. Check bonding agent ratios. Marker will show under UV terrorized tower. Then I waited. Days went by. I kept checking forums, engineering boards, even local news sites. But nothing moved. Everyone in the industry still thought the project was solid. Paula must have handed over a perfect-looking sample, just like always. Then, 2 days before the final contract was supposed to be locked in, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something in my gut said pick it up. "Hello?" A woman's voice came through, calm, clipped. "Is this Evan Morgan?" "Yes." "This is Hannah Keller with the Midwest Division of Construction Compliance. I need to ask you a few questions." My stomach tightened. She didn't wait. "Did you work on the terrorized tower design?" I glanced at the window. The barn was still out there, that concrete slab catching the morning light like nothing had happened. "Yeah," I said, "I did." "Yeah," I said, "I did." There was a pause on the line, the kind that tells you someone already knows the answer but wants to hear you say it. "We need you to come in, tomorrow morning, Indianapolis field office, Bring your documentation. She hung up after giving me the address. No small talk. No, thank you. Just business. Next morning, I drove 3 hours through fog with my hard drive in the glove box and a fresh button down in the back seat. The building looked like a DMV married a warehouse. Cinder block walls, chain link fences, no sign of what was going on inside. They led me to a windowless conference room, cold, bright. 2 guys and 1 woman were already seated. Engineers, not pencil pushers. One had field boots on. I like that. The lead, a gray-haired guy with a binder full of highlighted reports, got to it. You developed a modified concrete mix while employed under Trident Construction? I did. Independently. Explain it to us. I pulled up my files, ran them through my test data, and laid out the formula, how my mix bonded better under lateral load, resisted shrinkage, cured faster, and didn't rely on the cheaper additive that watered everything down. Then I showed them the color marker, what it did, how it worked, how to test it. They didn't say much, just watched, took notes, flipped through their copies of the report I'd sent anonymously. Finally, the woman asked, "Do you know where the mix switch occurred?" "Somewhere between spec approval and lab production. My guess is Paula signed off on the original formula to pass inspection, then funneled a cheaper variant through actual pours." The man in field boots spoke for the first time. "You think she did it alone?" "Number, she didn't have access to material vendors. That's gotta be at least 2 VPs. He nodded, like he already knew. Then they told me the part I'd been waiting to hear. "The tower passed basic inspection," the woman said, flipping a page. "But when we hit the sample with UV, we saw your marker. That triggered deeper lab testing. Bonding agents didn't match the approved specs." I didn't say anything. My throat felt tight, but I held it together. The gray-haired guy leaned forward. "We're opening fraud investigations into Paula Vance and 2 executive officers. If you want to press charges for retaliation or professional sabotage, now's your window." I didn't even hesitate. "Number, I don't want revenge. I just want my name cleared." They nodded. That was it. That night, I sat on the couch in my parents' living room, TV playing on mute, and refreshed the news for the 10th time. At 9:46 p.m., it hit. Terrorize Project paused amid material fraud investigation. My name wasn't mentioned, but the story was everywhere. Engineering boards, LinkedIn threads, even Reddit forums lit up. People were asking questions, debating timelines, trying to figure out who'd caught the error. My inbox went from 0 to 60 in 2 hours. Old coworkers, college friends, former interns, even a few CEOs I'd pitched ideas to years ago. "Is it true you flagged the mix? Need a consultant for a bridge project in Tennessee? Interested? Glad someone finally held that firm accountable. You free to talk?" I sat there, staring at the screen, heart pounding. I hadn't even started the next chapter yet, but I knew this. I wasn't finished. Not by a long shot. By the next morning, my inbox was chaos. Buried in it was an email flagged high priority from someone named Michael Harlan, board member at Trident. Subject line, "We need to talk." I ignored it for 3 days. When I finally answered, I kept it short. "If this is about helping clean up her mess, I'm not interested." He called me 10 minutes later. "Evan," he said, voice stiff but polite. "We had no idea what Paula was doing. She kept her decisions tight. Controlled information. It's not just you. Legal's all over it now." I didn't say anything. "We're asking if you'll come back as a consultant. Help us salvage the project. Make it right." I laughed once. "A consultant? After you let her nuke my career in front of a full boardroom?" "She fooled everyone." "No," I snapped. "She fooled you." The rest of them backed away on command. There was a pause. He said, "Then tell us what you want." That changed everything. I told them I didn't want a paycheck. I wanted ownership, full rights to my formula, intellectual property, patents, testing protocols, all of it under my name. And I wanted equity, not just some bonus. I wanted skin in the game. "Director level or I don't answer another call," I said, "and 25% profit share from any future commercial use of the mix." They pushed back, sent their lawyers, tried to water it down. I held my line. 3 weeks later, they gave in. I got the title, Director of Structural Innovation, and a legal contract that gave me exactly what I asked for. My formula stayed mine. And anytime it poured into a slab, I got paid. The same day I signed, Paula resigned. No press release, no farewell statement. Just gone. Disappeared from the employee directory like she'd never existed. They tried to save face. Sent me a welcome package, announced me as a pioneering return. I didn't care. I had my name back, and this time it was written in ink. My first move wasn't even about the tower. That formula was done, proved, signed off. I passed the rollout to the ops team and shifted focus completely. I'd been thinking for months about infrastructure failures I'd seen growing up, washed out county roads, parking lots that buckled after one hard rain, backwoods towns left stranded during storm season. Concrete's weak point had always been water. So I started sketching something new, sustainable roadway mix. Flood-resistant, fast-set, made for low-resource areas. My notes piled up fast. New binder agents, capillary sealants, custom fiber blends. My laptop was full again. So was my head. But this time, no one was going to cut me out. 12 months later, I stood in a suit I barely recognized, holding a pair of oversized scissors in front of the tallest dam structure I'd ever helped build. The terrorized tower gleamed in the sun. 35 floors of steel and glass sitting on a foundation poured with my mix. Not the garbage formula Paula tried to sneak past regulators, not the one that cracked under cold cycles. Mine. My name was etched into the brushed steel engineering plaque at the entryway. Director of Structural Innovation, Evan Morgan. Paula's name? Gone. Not a mention. Not even in the archived project memos. The crowd was full of press and investors, flashbulbs, clapping, smiles I didn't trust. But behind the scenes, I'd already made my impact where it mattered. Months earlier, I'd launched a program using a cut of my formula royalties to fund discounted concrete for rural infrastructure. Small towns, farm communities, places no one in a boardroom ever thought about. We worked directly with builders, skipping middlemen. I kept overhead low and quality high. I'd gotten emails from contractors in Arkansas, South Dakota, Western Pennsylvania, all of them saying the same thing. This stuff actually holds. The idea came from watching my dad slap duct tape fixes on cracked concrete for decades. He didn't need fancy. He needed strong, affordable, and ready to pour. Now he had it. That morning at the ribbon cutting, Chris found me before the cameras rolled. He looked cleaner than the last time I'd seen him. Haircut, nicer suit, confident now that he wasn't walking on Paula's leash. He'd quit during the investigation, but I'd brought him back under my division once the dust settled. "Full circle," he said, smirking. "You really turned it around?" I shrugged. "I just didn't stop." "You could have gone scorched earth, exposed the whole company, dragged everyone down with her." I looked past him at the building. Wind was hitting the upper glass panels just right. They shimmered like a wave. Everything about it looked clean, solid, right. "I'd rather build something real," I said, "than waste time burning it down." He nodded. No more needed to be said. The ceremony went off without a hitch. Speeches, ribbon snip, cameras flashing. A few investors asked for handshakes, trying to act like we'd always been allies. I smiled, kept it surface level, and made a mental note of who didn't call when I was blacklisted. Afterward, I stayed behind while the crowd cleared, walked around the base of the tower alone, ran my hand over one of the finished concrete support columns. No cracks, no voids. Just clean work. The kind of work that lasts. Later that night, I was in my office going through invoices when the news report came on. Former Trident executive Paula Vance has accepted a plea deal following a 6-month investigation into material fraud related to the terrorized tower. She has been barred from bidding or consulting on government contracts for 10 years. No mugshot, no dramatic takedown, just a headline and a tight-lipped legal statement from her lawyer. I leaned back in my chair and let it sink in. Her career was finished. I remembered her voice in that boardroom like it was yesterday, calling me a traitor in front of 200 people, waving those fake emails like they were gospel. What nobody knew, not the board, not the compliance officers, not even Chris, was that I'd rigged it from the start. The day they fired me, before security walked me out, I took a detour. I knew how Paula worked. Fast, sloppy, confident no one would question her. I slipped into the sample vault while she was in a meeting. Swapped out 2 bagged mixes from the test submission line. Planted a batch of my alternate formula, the one with the UV reactive additive, right into her stack. She never double-checked. Never bothered to verify what she was sending off for inspection. She just assumed it matched her off-the-books blend. Hit send, sealed her own fate. The moment the lab flagged the marker, everything unraveled. And I never said a word. Never told the board, never told the regulators, not even when Chris asked me if I had any idea how the switch got caught. I just shook my head and let him keep guessing. I didn't need the credit. I already had the office with my name on the door, the tower standing tall, the royalty checks funding better materials in places no one else cared about. I didn't need to destroy her. I'd already built something she could never touch, something solid, something real.